Get up, you wretched old woman. Your mates are in the market hawking tomatoes, not staining my designer couch with your village sweat. The words were sharp, arrogant, but they weren't enough. She grabbed a glass of cold water and poured it straight onto the woman's face. Still, the old woman said nothing. No anger, no tears. Just that deep, unsettling calm that only a mother could master. And then, silence broke. The door opened. And what happened next changed everything. Before we continue, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more stories like this. The airplane wheels touched the runway with a heavy screech. Passengers stretched, yawning, tugging at bags from the overhead compartments. Among them was Camila Parker, 65 years old, her back slightly bent but her step steady. Her silver hair was tied back neatly into a bun, her skin lined with the marks of time and hard work. She carried no expensive luggage, just a small faded handbag and a modest suitcase that had seen better days. As she walked out of the airport into the bright city lights, Camila paused to take in her surroundings. Tall glass buildings gleamed against the night sky. Cars honked impatiently, and advertisements flashed on digital billboards. It was a world she had only ever seen on television. Her lips curved into a smile. "My boy lives here now," she whispered softly to herself. Her voice carried both pride and disbelief. Camila flagged down a taxi. The driver, a young man with dreadlocks, jumped out and helped her with the suitcase. "Where to, Mama?" he asked warmly. Camila pulled out a folded paper from her handbag, the address neatly written in Owen's handwriting. "Here, my son gave me this," she said. The driver whistled low when he read the address. "Ah, you're going to that big mansion on Rosewood Hills? That's one fine place, Mama. Your son must be very important." Camila chuckled, shaking her head. "He is important. But to me, he is still that little boy who used to run around barefoot, chasing goats in the yard." The driver laughed. "Well, you must be proud." "Yes," Camila replied softly, her eyes glistening. "Proud doesn't even begin to cover it." As the taxi climbed the long road to the hills, Camila's heart pounded with anticipation. She remembered the days she could barely afford to feed Owen. Days when she worked 2 jobs, cleaning houses in the morning and sewing clothes at night, just to keep him in school. And now, he owned a mansion. The taxi finally stopped in front of towering black gates with golden patterns woven into the design. 2 security guards in suits stepped forward. The driver leaned out, saying, "She's here for Mr. Owen Parker." The guards exchanged glances. One picked up a phone, made a quick call, then nodded. "Yes, she's expected." The gate slowly swung open, revealing a wide driveway lined with palm trees and flowers that looked like they belonged in a magazine. Camila's eyes widened. "He lives here," she whispered, almost to herself. The taxi rolled to a stop in front of the mansion. It was vast, white walls, glass balconies, chandeliers visible even from outside. A fountain in the front yard sprayed water in perfect arcs. Camila stepped out slowly, her feet trembling, not from weakness but from awe. She clutched her handbag to her chest and whispered, "God, thank you. My son made it." The driver placed her suitcase beside her. "Mama, this is not a house, it's a palace. You raised a king." She smiled humbly. "He is just my boy." The guards offered to help with her luggage, but Camila shook her head. No, I can manage. I just need to rest." Inside, the mansion was even more breathtaking. Marble floors stretched endlessly, mirrors glinted from every corner, and a grand staircase curved upward like something out of a royal castle. Camila lowered her suitcase gently near the door, walked slowly to the living room, and sank into the soft designer couch. It embraced her body like a cloud, so different from the hard wooden chair she had used at home. Her bones ached from the journey, but her heart was light. She closed her eyes, whispering, "Just a few minutes, then I'll look for my son." And in seconds, she drifted into sleep. The mansion was quiet, except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Camila lay peacefully on the couch, her handbag resting on her lap. Upstairs, A door opened. Scarlett Monroe, Owen's girlfriend, stepped out in silk pajamas. Tall, slim, and striking, she looked like she had walked out of a fashion magazine. Her nails were freshly polished, and she held a glass of champagne in her hand. She hummed to herself as she descended the staircase, her eyes scanning lazily across the living room, until they landed on Camilla. Scarlett stopped. Her lips curled in irritation. Who on earth is this? An old woman, clothes simple and unfashionable, was sleeping on the designer couch Scarlett often boasted about to her friends. To Scarlett, it was not just a couch, it was a statement, an item worth thousands, imported from Italy. And now, some old woman had the audacity to nap on it. Scarlett clicked her tongue. Unbelievable. She strode forward and stood over Camilla, placing her champagne glass on the table with a sharp clink. "Hey," she said sharply. "Get up." Camilla stirred slightly, but her eyes remained closed. Scarlett frowned, folding her arms. Her voice grew harsher. "Get up, old woman. Your mates are in the village farming yams, not sleeping on my designer couch." Camilla's eyes fluttered open. She looked at Scarlett, not angrily, not even confused. Just calm. Her gaze was steady, patient, as though she had seen such disrespect before and refused to let it disturb her peace. Scarlett shifted uncomfortably under that gaze, but pride made her raise her chin higher. "Are you deaf?" Scarlett snapped. "Who even let you in here? This is a mansion, not a charity home." Camilla said nothing. She simply sat there, her hands resting gently on her handbag, her posture dignified despite her travel-worn clothes. The silence infuriated Scarlett. "You think you can ignore me?" she hissed. "I said get up." Still, Camilla did not move. Scarlett's eyes narrowed. She reached for the glass of cold water sitting on the table, the one she had set down moments ago. "You want to play games with me? Fine." Without another word, Scarlett tilted the glass and poured its icy contents directly onto Camilla's face. The water splashed across Camilla's forehead, trickled down her cheeks, soaked into her blouse. Yet she didn't flinch. She didn't scream. She simply blinked once, then looked straight into Scarlett's eyes with the calmness of a mountain. It was the kind of calm only a mother could master, the calm born from years of struggle, pain, and patience. Scarlett expected outrage. Shouting. At least a complaint. But the silence was louder than any scream could have been. Her confidence faltered for the first time. "Good," Scarlett muttered, trying to hide her unease. "Finally awake. Next time, don't make yourself too comfortable in someone else's house. You don't belong here." But just as the words left her mouth, footsteps echoed on the staircase. The marble staircase gave a soft echo as footsteps descended, steady and unhurried. Scarlett turned her head, still standing in front of the drenched old woman. It was Owen Parker. He looked effortlessly powerful even in his casual clothes, a plain white shirt, dark trousers, and barefoot steps on the marble. His hair was slightly messy, as though he had just woken from sleep, but his presence filled the room instantly. "Darling!" Scarlett called out, her face breaking into a bright smile of relief. "Oh, thank God you're here. I just caught this old maid sleeping on the couch again. Can you imagine?" She let out a short, fake laugh. "I had to wake her up. Honestly, these staff members need discipline." Owen paused at the bottom of the staircase. His eyes weren't on Scarlett. They were on the old woman, his mother, sitting calmly on the couch, blouse soaked, handbag resting in her lap. Something in his chest tightened. "Scarlett," he said, his voice low, slow. "What did you just say?" Scarlett blinked. His tone unsettled her. She tried again, her laugh forced this time. "I said, your maid was." "Stop." His voice cracked like thunder, sharp and final. The room went silent. Scarlett's smile faltered. "Babe, what's wrong?" Owen's eyes, usually warm and gentle, were cold steel now. He stepped forward, his gaze fixed on Scarlett. "Scarlett," he said, every word heavy, deliberate. That woman, sitting on the couch, the one you just humiliated. He stopped, his jaw tightening. His next words came like a knife. She is my mother. The world seemed to stop. The air thickened. Even the sound of the fountain outside felt muted. Scarlett's mouth fell open. What? Owen turned his gaze back to Camilla. For a moment, his whole expression changed. The steel in his eyes melted into something tender, protective. He rushed to her side, kneeling on the floor in front of the couch. "Mom," he whispered, his hands trembling as he reached for hers. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you had to face this in my house." Camilla gave a small smile, her hand brushing his cheek. Her voice was soft, steady. "It's all right, my son. Don't trouble your heart." But Owen's heart was already in turmoil. He turned back to Scarlett, his jaw clenched, his voice cutting through the silence. "You poured water on my mother." Scarlett stammered. I didn't know. I thought she was." "You thought she was what?" His voice rose, echoing in the mansion. "A maid. A beggar. Someone beneath you." Scarlett stepped back, her legs trembling. "Owen, please, you don't understand. I didn't mean. Owen's laugh was short and bitter. "You looked at a tired old woman, asleep after what must have been a long journey, and instead of compassion, you gave her cruelty. Instead of respect, you gave her insult. And then," his voice cracked with fury, "you poured water on her." Scarlett's eyes filled with tears. "Owen, please. I didn't know she was your—" "Stop saying that!" Owen roared. "Her value doesn't depend on being my mother. Even if she were a stranger, she deserved better than what you did." Camilla squeezed his hand gently. "Son," she murmured, her calmness almost supernatural. "Don't waste your fire on me. I am not hurt." But Owen was hurt. More than he wanted to admit. He stood, glaring down at Scarlett. "I brought you into my home. I thought you understood what respect meant. Clearly, I was wrong." Scarlett's tears finally broke free, sliding down her cheeks. She clasped her hands together desperately. "Owen, please. I'm sorry. I swear, I thought she was just—" "Just what?" Owen snapped. "Someone unworthy of kindness. Someone unworthy of a seat on a couch." Scarlett had no answer. She just stood there, trembling, her world cracking. Camilla, still sitting quietly, dabbed her face with her handkerchief. Her calmness was louder than any scream. Her silence condemned Scarlett more than Owen's fury ever could. The silence stretched, suffocating, until finally, Owen said the words Scarlett feared most. "Leave us." Scarlett's breath caught. "What?" "Go upstairs. Leave me with my mother." Scarlett wanted to argue, to defend herself, but one look at Owen's face told her it would be useless. His disappointment was deeper than anger. It was the kind that built walls between hearts. She turned slowly, climbing the staircase with heavy steps. Each footfall echoed like a drumbeat of her failure. Owen sank down on the couch beside his mother, taking her hands again. His voice broke now, softer, pained. "I invited you here so I could finally give you the life you deserve, Mom. You carried me on your back all those years. You starved so I could eat. And this is how you're welcomed." Camilla stroked his hand. "Owen, my son. Do not carry this pain. I have known harder days than this. This one is nothing." But Owen shook his head. "No, Mom. It's not nothing. You're the reason I am who I am. No one will disrespect you under my roof." Camilla's calm smile remained. "You don't need to fight, Owen. Time will fight for me." And with those words, the weight in the room grew heavier. Scarlett sat alone upstairs in the lavish bedroom, her face buried in her hands. Her mascara had smeared, black streaks staining her cheeks. She had never felt so small, so ashamed. His mother. I insulted his mother. Her words replayed in her head like a cruel echo. Get up, old woman. Your mates are in the village farming yams, not sleeping on my designer couch. The realization twisted in her stomach. She had thrown those words like knives, blind to the truth, and now each blade had circled back to stab her. She thought about running down, apologizing again, falling at Camila's feet if she had to. But something stopped her. Pride. And fear. The fear that no apology could erase what she had done. Downstairs. Owen sat with Camila, still shaken. Scarlett lingered by the staircase, listening. Son, Camila said softly, you must not let anger control you. This girl, she does not understand yet. Life will teach her. But Mom, Owen said, frustration lacing his voice, how can someone treat another human being like that? It's not about you being my mother. It's about basic respect. Camila smiled faintly, her eyes far away, as though remembering something from long ago. When you were a boy, you used to come home crying because other children laughed at your torn shoes. Do you remember what I told you? Owen's eyes softened. You said, their laughter doesn't change your path. Keep walking. Yes. Camila nodded gently. This girl laughed with her actions, but it does not change who I am. It only shows who she is. Scarlett's chest tightened at those words. It only shows who she is. Owen sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know if I can forgive her, Mom. Not after this. Camila's eyes glistened with quiet wisdom. Forgiveness is not for her, Owen. It is for you. But trust, she paused, her voice firm now. Trust must be earned. And today, she failed. Scarlett bit her lip until it bled. Every word was a hammer pounding at her pride, breaking it piece by piece. Later that night, Owen walked into the bedroom. Scarlett rushed to him, grabbing his arm. Owen, please. You have to believe me. I didn't know she was your mother. Owen turned to face her. His eyes were tired, but cold. Scarlett. Stop hiding behind that excuse. Whether she was my mother or a maid, she deserved kindness. Scarlett's voice cracked. I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. This wasn't just a mistake, Owen said, stepping back from her touch. This was your heart speaking. This was who you are when no one is watching. Scarlett shook her head desperately. No, that's not me. I was just frustrated, careless. Owen cut her off. If that's who you are with strangers, then who are you, Scarlett? Because I can't spend my life with someone who looks down on others. Tears spilled from her eyes. Owen, please. Don't say that. Don't throw us away because of this one thing. I love you. But Owen's reply was like a blade. Love without respect is empty. Scarlett collapsed onto the bed, sobbing. Owen turned away, his heart heavy but resolved. In that moment, the glittering walls of the mansion felt like a prison to Scarlett, and the calm silence of Camila downstairs weighed more than any diamond necklace she owned. And so the cracks had begun. Scarlett's mask of glamour and superiority was shattered, leaving behind the raw, uncomfortable truth. In the presence of true dignity, her arrogance was nothing but dust. That night, the mansion seemed quieter than usual. The golden chandeliers glowed softly, but the atmosphere was heavy, thick with unspoken words. Scarlett lay awake in the upstairs bedroom, her eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Camila's face, calm, silent, drenched in water, yet stronger than any scream could ever be. Scarlett rolled over, hugging her pillow tightly. She had expected anger, insults, maybe even curses. That would have been easier to deal with. But the silence. Camila's silence was worse. It echoed in Scarlett's head like a bell, striking again and again. You failed. You failed. She whispered to herself in the darkness. Why didn't she yell at me? Why didn't she fight back? Her voice cracked. Why did she just look at me like that? Scarlett had been insulted before by rivals, envied by women, even shouted at by paparazzi. She always fought back, always defended her pride. But this old woman's silence was breaking her apart in ways she couldn't explain. Scarlett pressed her face into the pillow and groaned. I can't take that look. I can't. Downstairs, meanwhile, Camilla sat quietly in the living room. She hadn't gone to bed yet. She sat by the window, sipping warm tea the housekeeper had brought her, gazing out at the city lights below the hills. Owen entered quietly and sat beside her. You should rest, Mom, he said gently. It's been a long day. Camilla smiled faintly. I will. But first, I wanted to see the night from here. It is beautiful. Owen looked out the window too, but the view didn't matter to him. His mind was still burning with the image of Scarlett pouring water on his mother. Mom, he began, his voice low. Why didn't you say anything to her? Not even one word. Camilla sipped her tea before replying. Her voice was calm, steady, like the earth itself. Because sometimes silence is heavier than words. Words can be twisted, argued with, forgotten. But silence makes the guilty speak to themselves. It is a mirror. Owen sighed deeply. Do you think she understands what she's done? Camilla looked at him, her eyes gentle. Whether she understands or not is not in my hands. I only carry myself with dignity. The rest, life will teach her. Owen reached for her hand. You're stronger than anyone I know. Camilla chuckled softly. Strength is not in shouting, my son. It's in standing still when the storm tries to move you. Upstairs, Scarlett tossed and turned, her own storm raging inside her. And though no one spoke of it, the weight of Camilla's silence was shaping the days to come. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the tall windows, spilling golden light into the mansion. The house staff moved quietly, preparing breakfast, polishing glass tables, watering plants. Scarlett came downstairs late, wearing a silk robe. Her eyes were tired, her face pale. She hesitated when she saw Camilla in the kitchen, wearing a simple apron, laughing softly with the cook as they rolled dough together. Camilla's hands moved with practiced ease, shaping the dough into small circles. She looked completely at home, though everything around her was luxury. Scarlett froze at the doorway, confusion spreading through her chest. Why is she cooking? She's Owen's mother. She should be relaxing, being served. Not this. One of the maids noticed Scarlett and greeted politely. Good morning, Miss Scarlett. Scarlett forced a smile. Morning. Camilla turned, her face glowing warmly. Good morning, dear. Did you sleep well? Scarlett's throat went dry. She managed a stiff nod. Yes, I did. Camilla didn't seem to notice the stiffness. She went back to kneading the dough. Come, sit. We are making breakfast. Do you want to join us? Scarlett's pride almost made her say no, but something in Camilla's tone disarmed her. It wasn't a command. It wasn't pity. It was just an invitation, simple and genuine. Maybe later, Scarlett muttered, retreating quickly into the dining room. Over the next few days, Scarlett watched as Camilla quietly won over the entire household. The guards at the gate smiled wider when she walked past, because she always greeted them first. How are your families? She would ask, genuinely listening. The gardeners adored her, because she didn't just stroll past their flowers. She knelt down, touched the soil, and even helped water the plants. The cooks laughed more when she was in the kitchen. Camilla told stories of how she used to cook with firewood, stirring pots while Owen studied under a lantern. Even the drivers sought her company. She sat with them in the evenings, asking about their dreams and offering quiet wisdom like seeds planted in the soil of their hearts. Scarlett watched all this unfold with a mix of confusion and envy. She was the glamorous one, the beautiful one, the woman of status and fashion. Yet when she entered a room, people only admired her looks. When Camilla entered, people's faces lit up with genuine affection. It burned Scarlett in ways she didn't want to admit. One afternoon, Scarlett found herself sitting by the pool, scrolling through her phone, pretending not to care. But deep inside, she was restless. She whispered bitterly, "Why is everyone so drawn to her? She's just an old woman." But the words rang hollow even to her. She remembered how Camilla had looked at her that night, drenched in water, yet calm, unbroken. She remembered how everyone around the house seemed lighter when Camilla was near. Scarlett clenched her phone tighter. "I can't compete with that. I don't even know how to." Her pride told her to ignore it, to dismiss Camilla as nothing. But her heart whispered another truth. She was seeing, for the first time, a kind of strength she had never known. One evening, Owen hosted a small dinner with a few business associates. Scarlett dressed herself in her most dazzling gown, determined to reclaim her place as the star of the evening. The guests arrived, greeted warmly, and sat around the long table. Scarlett smiled, laughed loudly, and told glamorous stories about her travels, her shopping sprees, her connections. Some guests listened politely, but their eyes drifted elsewhere. Because at the other end of the table, Camilla was speaking. Her voice was gentle but captivating. She wasn't telling glamorous stories, she was telling real ones. She spoke of Owen as a boy, studying by candlelight. She spoke of the small farm she once managed, how she sold vegetables in the market to buy his schoolbooks. The guests leaned closer, drawn in by her authenticity. One guest, a wealthy man with grey hair, said admiringly, "So this is the woman who raised Owen Parker? You are the true success story here." Another guest nodded. "Yes. Behind every great man, there is often a greater mother." Applause broke out. The table glowed with admiration for Camilla. Scarlett sat frozen, her smile brittle, her insides twisting with envy. She had dressed to impress, but she was invisible. All eyes, all hearts, belonged to Camilla. She forced a laugh, trying to pull attention back. "Well, I guess hard work pays off. But you know, success also needs style and vision, right?" But the words fell flat. The guests were still looking at Camilla, who simply smiled humbly and said, "All I wanted was for my son to have a chance. The rest is God's grace." Owen's eyes shone with pride as he looked at his mother. Scarlett noticed that look and felt her chest tighten. That was the kind of pride she had wanted him to show her. But it was Camilla who had earned it. Later that night, Scarlett sat alone in front of her vanity mirror. She touched her diamond earrings, her perfectly styled hair, her flawless makeup. And yet, for the first time, she felt ugly. Not because of her looks, but because beside Camilla's dignity, her own arrogance looked cheap. She whispered to herself, her voice trembling, "I don't know how to be like her. I don't know if I can ever be like her." And in that whisper, Scarlett realized the truth. This was her test of character. And so far, she was failing. The mansion glittered with light and laughter that night. Owen had invited a circle of close friends, business associates, and a few politicians for a dinner gathering. For him, it was nothing unusual. These evenings happened often, part of the rhythm of his life as a billionaire. But for Scarlett, it was a stage. She had prepared for days. A shimmering emerald gown hugged her body, diamonds sparkled at her ears, and her lips glowed a bold red. She had told herself this was her moment, her chance to reclaim her place as the radiant star by Owen's side. "Tonight," she whispered in the mirror before descending the stairs, "everyone will see who truly belongs here." The dining room was a scene out of a royal banquet. Crystal glasses glimmered under the chandelier, silver cutlery shone against spotless porcelain plates, and the long table was draped in silk. Staff moved quietly, pouring wine and serving dishes that looked like works of art. Scarlett entered gracefully, smiling with practiced ease. Heads turned, compliments floated her way. She leaned close to Owen, whispering, "Let me handle the social flow tonight, darling. Just enjoy yourself." Owen gave her a polite smile but said nothing. At the far end of the table sat Camilla, dressed in a simple but elegant gown Owen had gifted her earlier that week. It wasn't flashy, just navy blue cotton with delicate embroidery. Yet somehow, her presence commanded more respect than Scarlett's diamonds. The guests greeted her warmly. Some had already heard whispers that this was Owen's mother. When she smiled and returned their greetings with humility, the respect deepened. The dinner began. Plates clinked softly, conversations bloomed. Scarlett immediately took control of the center of attention. "Oh, last summer I was in Paris," she said, her laugh light and musical. "You haven't lived until you've sipped champagne on a private yacht in the Riviera. The French really do know how to spoil a woman." The guests smiled politely. One asked a question about Owen's latest project, but Scarlett quickly redirected. "Oh, business is important, of course. But let me tell you about the gala I attended in Milan. People wouldn't stop asking me about my gown. It was custom-made, of course." She threw a sidelong glance at Owen, expecting admiration. But Owen's eyes weren't on her. They were on his mother, who sat listening quietly, hands folded in her lap. As the meal continued, conversation turned naturally to Owen himself. One of the guests, a silver-haired businessman, raised his glass. "Owen, your empire is inspiring. You've built something incredible. We would all love to know, what's your secret?" Owen paused, then smiled softly. Instead of answering, he gestured toward Camilla. "The secret sits at this table," he said. "Her name is Camilla Parker. My mother." The room stilled for a heartbeat, then filled with murmurs of admiration. All eyes turned to Camilla. Scarlett's smile froze. Camilla shook her head humbly. "Oh no, my son built everything with his own hands and mind. I only prayed for him, that is all." But Owen's voice was firm. "Not true, Mom. You gave me everything you had, even when it left you with nothing. You worked, sacrificed, endured. Without you, none of this would exist. Every stone in this mansion, every success I own, it is built on your shoulders." The table erupted into applause. Some guests even stood briefly in respect. One politician said warmly, "It's rare to meet such a foundation behind a great man. You are the queen here." Camilla's eyes glistened with humility, her hand brushing Owen's cheek as if he were still her little boy. Scarlett sat stiff, fury boiling beneath her flawless exterior. This was supposed to be my night. Mine. She tried again to steal the spotlight, her voice rising above the applause. "Well, of course, Owen is brilliant. But let's not forget the importance of vision, of style, of making sure one fits into the circles of power. Success isn't just sacrifice, it's also presentation." But her words rang hollow. The guests were still focused on Camilla, asking her questions, laughing at her gentle humor, admiring her dignity. Scarlett's smile cracked. The envy burned so hot she felt she could choke on it. Why do they worship her? She's nothing compared to me. Nothing. But deep down, a voice whispered the truth she didn't want to hear. She has what you can never buy. Respect. By the end of the dinner, Scarlett's rage was barely contained. She excused herself early, her heels clattering sharply on the marble floor as she left the room. And when Owen later entered their bedroom, the breaking point arrived. Scarlett stood by the window in the bedroom, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, her reflection burning in the glass. The city lights stretched endlessly beyond, but her eyes were stormy, locked on her own shadow. When Owen entered, she spun around. "So that's it, then? Tonight was about her." Owen frowned. "What do you mean?" Scarlett's voice shook with fury. "Don't play dumb with me, Owen. The whole night, it was my mother this, my mother that. Do you know how humiliating that was for me? I was the hostess, yet all anyone cared about was your old mother and her poor little struggle story." Owen's eyes narrowed. "Scarlett, watch your tone." "Why?" she snapped. "Because she's sacred now? Because no one's allowed to say the truth? She's just an old woman, Owen. An old woman who cooked and sold vegetables. And suddenly she's the queen of the night. Owen's jaw tightened. That old woman, as you call her, worked harder than you could ever imagine. Every meal you eat, every gown you wear under my roof exists because of her sacrifices. Scarlett laughed bitterly. Sacrifices? Please. Everyone has a sad story. That doesn't make her special. What makes someone special is ambition, glamour, knowing how to move in powerful circles. That's me, Owen. Me, not her. Owen's face hardened. His voice dropped low, sharp as a blade. Scarlett, I loved you because I thought you had a heart beneath the beauty. But tonight, you showed me something else. Arrogance, envy, disrespect. Scarlett's chest rose and fell, panic creeping into her anger. Don't twist this, Owen. I was just being honest. She's making me look small. You make yourself small, Owen shot back. By trying to step on others just to feel tall. Do you realize what you're saying? You insulted my mother the moment she entered this house. And tonight, instead of seeing her strength, you only saw a threat to your pride. Scarlett's voice cracked. Because I'm losing you to her. Owen froze, then shook his head slowly. You never had me to lose. Not if you can't respect the woman who gave me life. Scarlett's tears finally fell, streaking her carefully applied makeup. Owen, please. Don't say that. I made a mistake. Yes, I insulted her. I was cruel. But can't you forgive me? Owen's eyes were cold. Forgiveness is possible. But trust, Scarlett, respect. Once they break, they don't return easily. And tonight, you broke both. Scarlett stumbled forward, grabbing his arm desperately. Don't throw me away. Don't let her win. Owen pulled his arm back sharply. This isn't about winning. This is about what love really means. Love without respect, Scarlett, is empty. And I will not build my life on emptiness. Her sobs filled the room, but Owen turned and walked away, leaving her crumpled by the window, her glittering gown shimmering uselessly under the cold city lights. That night, Scarlett learned the truth. It wasn't Camilla who had broken her. It was her own pride, reflected back at her through the calm strength of the woman she had tried to belittle. And as she sat alone, mascara running down her cheeks, she realized she was fighting a battle she could never win. Because dignity will always outshine diamonds. The mansion was unusually still the next morning. The staff moved quietly, speaking in hushed tones, as though even their footsteps might disturb the heavy silence that hung in the air. Scarlett sat alone in the bedroom, curled up on the edge of the bed. Her hair was unkempt, her face bare without makeup. The gown from last night lay crumpled in a heap on the floor, its sparkle now nothing but mockery. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Owen's words again. Love without respect is empty. She whispered them aloud, her voice breaking. Empty. Downstairs, Camilla sat in the garden, her hands busy weaving a small mat from palm leaves one of the gardeners had given her. She looked calm, as always. Birds chirped nearby. Sunlight fell gently across her face. Scarlett watched her from the balcony above, torn between fear and shame. Her pride wanted her to hide forever. But another part of her, a part she barely recognized, longed to kneel, to beg, to touch that calmness and be forgiven. After what felt like hours, Scarlett finally descended the staircase slowly, barefoot, her steps hesitant. She walked out to the garden, her voice trembling. Mrs. Parker. Camilla looked up. Her eyes were warm, not sharp, not condemning, just calm, like a still river. Scarlett's lips quivered. She sank to her knees in front of Camilla, tears spilling freely. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I am sorry. Camilla studied her for a long moment. Scarlett couldn't hold her gaze. It was too heavy, too pure. She bowed her head, ashamed. Camilla reached out and touched her cheek gently, lifting her face so their eyes met. Her voice was soft, but steady. Child, life will teach you what pride will not let you see. You thought my silence was weakness, but silence is often the loudest voice. Scarlett sobbed harder. I didn't know how to face you. I wanted to destroy you because you made me feel small. Camila shook her head. No one can make you small, my dear. You carry your own measure. What you did to me only showed who you are, not who I am. Scarlett clutched Camila's hand desperately. Please, teach me. I don't want to be that woman anymore. For the first time, Camila smiled fully, her eyes softening. The first step you already took. You bowed your pride. The rest is a journey. Scarlett's sobs eased, replaced by a strange peace. She felt like a child again, sitting at the feet of a teacher. For the first time in her life, she realized that beauty, glamour, and wealth could never compete with the quiet power of dignity. When Owen entered the garden later, he found Scarlett kneeling, clutching his mother's hand like a lifeline. His chest tightened. Scarlett, he began cautiously. She looked up at him, her face tear-streaked but honest. Owen, I can't undo what I did. I humiliated your mother. I humiliated myself. And I've lost you because of it. But please believe me. I have learned. I have learned. Owen's eyes softened, but his voice remained firm. Scarlett, I don't doubt you feel regret. And maybe you have learned. But regret is not the same as respect. That takes time and action, not just tears. Scarlett nodded, accepting his words without protest. That in itself was new. Once, she would have argued, defended, fought. But now, she simply whispered, I understand. Camila patted her hand gently. Rise now, child. You cannot kneel forever. What matters is how you walk after this day. Scarlett stood slowly, wiping her tears. She felt lighter, but also emptier, because she knew what would come next. The following morning, Scarlett packed her things quietly. She didn't wait for Owen to tell her to go. She already knew. Some lessons could only be learned through loss. As she zipped her suitcase, she glanced around the room one last time. The golden curtains, the crystal lamp, the soft velvet chairs, all the luxury she had once flaunted felt meaningless now. Her reflection in the mirror caught her attention. Her face was pale, tired, but honest. She whispered to herself, this isn't the end. This is where I start again. Downstairs, Owen and Camila sat at the long dining table, sharing breakfast. It was simple food, bread, fruit, tea, but it felt like a feast because of the peace between them. Scarlett entered with her suitcase. The air grew heavy. Owen looked up, his expression unreadable. You're leaving. Scarlett nodded. Yes. She hesitated, then added softly, thank you for everything. For showing me what I didn't want to see about myself. And, Mrs. Parker, she turned to Camila, her voice breaking. Thank you for forgiving me, even when I didn't deserve it. Camila's smile was calm, unwavering. Go well, child. May life teach you gently from here on. Scarlett swallowed hard, then pulled her suitcase toward the door. She didn't look back. The moment the door closed behind her, Owen exhaled deeply. Camila reached across the table, placing her hand on his. You did the right thing, she said quietly. Owen's voice cracked. I loved her, Mom. Or at least, I thought I did. Camila's eyes softened. You loved what you thought she could be. But love is not a dream, Owen. It is what stands when life shakes it. Respect is the root. Without it, the flower will always die. Owen squeezed her hand tightly. You're right. You've always been right. Camila chuckled softly. Not always. But in this, yes. Because I have lived long enough to know. Later that evening, Owen took his mother to the balcony overlooking the sprawling city below. The sky was painted with streaks of gold and purple as the sun set. Mom, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Do you see all this? The buildings, the cars, the wealth? It all feels empty compared to what you gave me. Camilla smiled faintly, her eyes glistening. All I gave you was my best, Owen. The rest, you built yourself. No, Owen said firmly. You gave me more than that. You gave me faith when I had nothing. You gave me discipline when I wanted to quit. You gave me love when the world gave me nothing. You are the queen of this house. No one else. Camilla's eyes welled up, but she held her composure, her smile steady. And as the city lights flickered on one by one, Owen whispered the words that would echo beyond that moment. Some crowns are not made of gold. They are forged in sacrifice, worn in silence, and carried with dignity. Camilla's hand slipped into his, warm and firm. She didn't need to reply. Her life had already spoken louder than any words. Far away, in a taxi rolling down the hill, Scarlett stared out the window at the fading mansion. She felt a hollow ache, but also a strange clarity. She whispered to herself, repeating Camilla's words, "Silence is the loudest voice." For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a queen in diamonds. She felt like a student, humbled, stripped bare. And maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of something real. And so the story closed, not with shouting, not with revenge, but with the quiet triumph of a woman whose dignity outshone every insult, every diamond, every ounce of arrogance thrown at her. Camilla Parker remained the true queen, not of wealth, not of titles, but of unshakable grace. And that, my friends, is how dignity defeats arrogance. Not with shouting, not with revenge, but with silence that speaks louder than pride. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and share this video with someone who needs this reminder. And of course, subscribe for more powerful stories that will leave you thinking long after they end.